I set out to work with women and marginalised genders in the first instance, and in fact, that was the demographic focus group was made up of, because that was where I'd perceived the need. So, just to explain, a lot of the thinking behind neurophototherapy comes from the sector support work, as I said, and from experience. And at that time, I was really only meeting a small proportion of people who identified as men. The vast majority of late diagnosed neurodivergent people that I was coming across in the arts identified as women. And it seemed to me there was a lot of talk at that time, so around about 2019, before the pandemic, about neurodivergence and autism in particular presenting differently in women. And this whole issue of masking and going under the radar, so that it was more likely that men were being diagnosed earlier in life, perhaps, and that more women were discovering themselves later in life. So that was the initial thesis. But as I progressed, and as we've since 2019 and 2020 sort of gone so much further in our understanding of gender identity, that felt less important as the project went on. And I sort of came to understand that masking for men can be, for people identified as men can be as complex, and that many men have also gone under the radar and are discovering their neurodivergence later in life. So I kind of put that to the back of my mind and just focused on the method. And in a way, it just so happens that the focus group is, it is of the demographic it is. That's sort of come through probably my experience of there being more people that I'm aware of who are, who identify as women. So that's kind of the background to it. But what I also discovered through the research was that it's not only neurodivergent people who identified with this method. And so then I opened out, this is why I talk about, it's a method for neurodivergent people and other humans, because I think, the feedback was so clear from focus groups, from partners, from anybody who I shared the method with along the way, that they could see the use for other groups. So partners such as Craft Council talked to me in the early stages about possibly later on working with a group who are discovering their sexual orientation later in life. So, it isn't, maybe we'll cover this when we talk about masking, but it isn't only the case for neurodivergent people that we mask. Many other groups masked identities and have been unaware of the social pressures to conform to certain, behaviors and roles. So I think it has quite a wide application.